后比较大型的有葡京，然后威尼斯人、金沙、美高梅等等。然后我偶尔也会去小玩一下。
It's really just the casino. The most impressive thing that people think about Macau is the casinos over there. Nowadays, there are a lot of casinos in Macau, like Lisbon, Venetian, Sands, and GM. And sometimes I go there myself to have a little bit of fun. Welcome, guys, to another episode of the Fox and Burger Podcast, where we bring you closer to the Asian side of the furry fandom, one episode at a time. I'm your co-host, Michael the Matcha Fox.
And I'm Burger.
And today, we have another first with our guest, Dreamer Wolf, a furry from Macau.
In this episode, we talk about where exactly Macau is and some things to do in Macau. We then discuss how the Macau furry fandom is a small but welcoming community. Finally, we talked about how Macau furries interact with other surrounding furry communities, and if the occasional meetups in Macau will progress into Macau having its own FurCon.
This is our first time going to Macau, and I'm really excited. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some egg tarts. And welcome Dreamer Wolf to the podcast.
嗨，你们好啊！
好，欢迎你来。Yeah, so Dreamer Wolf is actually someone I haven't met yet. Well, we requested him to be part of the panel for interviews from abroad. So let's flash that on the screen again because we can't get enough of that.
Yeah.
Interviews from abroad was our panel for Infernity 2.0 Online.
Mm-hmm.
And we invited a bunch of furries to talk about their experiences in Taiwan. And Dreamer Wolf was one of the guests.
He was the one that represented Macau, and I was actually looking through that video earlier this week, just as a little bit of inspiration towards this year's Infernity, and also to kind of see what he already said about Macau. Yeah, glad to have him on the podcast.
Yeah, I think this is actually the first time we've had a furry from Macau on the pod. So again, thank you so much, Dreamer Wolf, for being here. So in this episode, this is going to be another bilingual episode. I will be the main interpreter for this episode. So Dreamer Wolf will be responding in Mandarin Chinese, and I'll be translating that into English. Again, if you don't speak Mandarin Chinese, that's no problem. I'll be kind of simplifying what he says for the purposes of the interview. But we'll be asking him the questions in English, so don't worry about that as well. And I think that's our cue to just go ahead and begin then. So I guess let's start with the introduction. Dreamer Wolf, can you briefly tell us what your Fursona is and how you joined the fandom?
好，没问题。大家好啊，我是来自澳门的梦狼，然后我的兽色是埃及的梦神。然后外观是长了一对角的狼，身体整体都是红色的，然后会有配色，手持大剑，长得一副凶凶的模样。
Hey guys, my name is Dreamer Wolf from Macau. My Fursona is an Egyptian dream god. My Fursona is a red wolf. He has a pair of horns. He's usually holding a weapon like a sword and has a very really fierce look.
And might I say, rather handsome.
Agreed.
谢谢。
All right. And can you tell us more about how you first joined the fandom?
我是因为偶尔的情况下知道有两款游戏，一款是家有大猫，然后另外一款是 Changed， 然后我就对这两款游戏的内容蛮感兴趣的，那我就在网上搜寻他们的游戏内容，然后也因为这样，我在一个论坛巴哈姆特找到一个台湾兽圈的 Discord 群组，那个名字叫兽文化交流群，然后之后我就走进去兽圈的生活了。
So I heard about two games before. One of them is called Change. The other one is called Nekojishi. And I was really interested in what those games were about. So I searched for stuff related to these games. I also found out about a Taiwanese furry Discord group through the Taiwanese forum and also streaming site called Bahamut. And that's how I entered the furry fandom.
So I had never heard about Bahamut before. Have you ever heard of that website, Michael?
Yeah, I heard about it about a couple years ago. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. It was actually Xiongbao who told me. So shout out to Xiongbao.
Oh, okay.
I don't think she watches the podcast, but yeah, I heard of it. I don't use it all that often because it is partly a streaming site, but you're going to be given Chinese subtitles, and that's not my native language, so I would prefer to watch English subtitles. So I don't use it too often, but I know about it.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. So then how about we move on to our guest spotlight then?
Yeah.
Dreamer, go ahead and tell us more about where you live. Where exactly is Macau and what is it known for?
澳门是一个很小的地方，它连接着中国珠海市，然后香港其实住在我们的对岸，坐船的话大概1个小时左右就到了。然后现在多了一个选择，就是坐那个巴士。如果想要在地图上找到澳门，其实也蛮简单的，只需要找到香港，然后你再往左看一点点，然后就看到澳门了。
Yeah, Macau is a small place. It's connected to Zhuhai City over on the mainland side, and the mainland here being mainland China. And then Hong Kong is on the other side to us, to the east. It takes about an hour to get there by boat. There's also another option to get to Hong Kong, and that's taking a bus. And it's actually very simple to find Macau on the map. First, you just have to find Hong Kong, then you go a little bit to the left, and then you've got Macau.
Right, and I think the history of Macau is that it was I believe it was some sort of port that the Portuguese tried to set up and all of that, kind of like how Britain tried to set up some sort of port on Hong Kong as well, unless I'm wrong about that.
Yeah, I think you're largely right, but I probably wouldn't say tried like they did. They did set up, like it didn't fail. It was a successful port city.
Okay, yeah. And I actually had the chance to go to Macau because back in 2019, I visited Hong Kong. I was on vacation in Shenzhen City on the mainland side. This was when I was still working in mainland China.
So you've been to Hong Kong.
And I enjoyed my time in Hong Kong despite having trouble getting back there through some sort of complicated issue through my bank card. But I think nowadays, because I've experienced more countries to travel to and all that, I would like to visit Macau. Now, can you tell us a little bit more about what Macau is known for?
澳门其实最让人深刻的应该是赌场了吧？然后现在澳门有很多家赌场，然后比较大型的有葡京，然后威尼斯人、金沙、美高梅等等。然后我偶尔也会去小玩一下。
Yeah, the most familiar thing that people know about Macau is, I guess, like this slogan, like Macau's first online casino is online, something like that. But nah, I'm just kidding. It's really just a casino. The most impressive thing that people think about Macau is the casinos over there. Nowadays, there are a lot of casinos in Macau, like Lisbon, Venetian, Sands, and GM. And sometimes I go there myself to have a little bit of fun.
So Michael, have you ever been to a casino actually?
Yeah, several times. I've been to Vegas a few times.
Yeah, I would say Vegas as well for me. But I only went when I was too young to gamble, I would say.
I've been there when I was too young to gamble. I've been there when I was old enough to gamble. I did like slot machines. Well, when I was old enough to gamble, I did slot machines. I don't think I won anything. I wanted to do Texas Hold'em. Like if you were a newbie going in, they don't hold your hands. As far as I know, like unless you ask them really nicely, like they just know what the rules are and like what's the proper etiquette. And if you're playing with experienced people, they kind of just breeze past you. Like they know you're a newbie and you'll get slaughtered, I think.
Yeah, I don't have a big, strong interest in gambling myself, which is probably why I didn't visit Macau. But there are other things outside of casinos there. It's just that's what people are more familiar with.
Yeah.
So let's say neither of us have been to Macau before, and you want to tell someone more about it other than the casinos. What about the cuisine? What about the food? What can people try if they're visiting for the first time?
如果说第一次来澳门的话，要吃的食物，我强烈推荐是那个葡式蛋挞。因为那个比起肯德基或者是其他店会好吃100多倍，然后很多人会去买，因为它几乎每天都是新鲜出炉的， 然后外皮很松脆，然后内心还热乎乎的，吃起来很香的鸡蛋的味道。然后因为是葡式蛋挞嘛，然后它会有一些焦糖在上面，然后非常好吃。然后再来，如果是去吃晚餐的话，可以选择葡餐，然后比较有名的菜名叫做马介休，然后它有很多种吃法啦，然后我会比较推荐是吃白煮，因为这样可以吃到食物的原汁原味，咸香的，蛮好吃的。
So if it's your first time coming to Macau, I would strongly recommend Portuguese egg tarts, which are 100 times better than KFC's. A lot of people will buy egg tarts, so they're almost always freshly baked. They have a nice crispy skin and very warm filling. Oh, and by the way, I should add, this is not in the translation, but I do want to let people know that here in Asia, KFC in Asia, they usually serve egg tarts as a side dish.
That was that was the one thing that confused me when I tried international fast food places like KFC in like China and Thailand and Taiwan. It's like, oh, here's this egg tart. What is this? I've never had this before.
Well, have you not had it before at all?
Not really, no.
Well, it's popular dim sum. Yeah, I've had it before. I just haven't had it with fast food. So going back to the translation, yeah, like there's a really nice egg flavor, and sometimes they even have like this sort of like caramel taste to it. It's very delicious. And for dinner choices, I recommend Portuguese food. There's a famous one called bacalhau. Was it ma jiao xiu in Mandarin? There are many ways to eat it, but I recommend boiling it because this way you can taste the original salty flavor. Bacalhau, again, an extra note, is a kind of, I think it's salted cod, some kind of salted fish, and salted because it's a preservation technique. It's a little bit like an older, like, I don't know if I would say medieval, but it's like a kind of food that's been around for a few hundred years, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I can dig salty fish. I think that's pretty good.
Not me, I'm not a seafood guy. So sorry, Dreamer. 我拍谁？我不太喜欢海鲜，我就会吐，我会吐，我口感我不想吃。虽然我在夏威夷出生的，但是我不吃海鲜，
那就比较可惜了。
我小时候吃很多海鲜，但是到现在，我觉得长大之后我就不会吃了。So Dreamer, could you tell us about how about like animals? Are there any well-known or animals that are unique to Macau?
我记得比较印象深刻的一只动物是二楼红公园的一只亚洲黑熊，然后它的名字叫 Bobo， 它是从一家餐厅救回来的，然后在我小学的时候就已经很喜欢去探望它。在我小时候去看它的时候还是很活泼的，它会走来走去，可是因为他毕竟老了嘛，然后在2018年的时候就去世了，然后他也被做成了标本在博物馆展出。我是觉得蛮可惜的，毕竟我小时候很爱这只动物，然后希望它在天国可以活得好好。
To me, I do want to share a special animal in Macau. He's an Asian black bear named Bobo, who lived in Arlongho Park. When I was in elementary school, I liked to visit him a lot. I remember when I was young, he was like a very lively kind of bear, but unfortunately he passed away in 2018. And he was also taxidermied and put on display in a museum. To me, I feel a bit sad about that though, because after all, he was my favorite animal when I was a child. So I hope he's doing well in heaven.
Yeah, I guess that is one way to preserve the legacy of a well-liked animal, so rest in peace, Bobo. Sometimes there's a statue, sometimes it's a gravestone, but I guess taxidermy is not too bad of a way of remembrance. But going back to the furry fandom, tell us about how you first heard about it. Was it from a friend, or was it from the internet? I know you talked about Bahamut as well, but can you give us some more detail about that?
就像我刚刚说的那样，我第一次知道 受控或者是授权的一些事情，其实是加进去一个 Discord 群里面，然后也在里面接触到很多之前完全没有看到的事物，也看到很多不同的兽人设定，然后我就觉得他们很漂亮、很帅，然后因为这个原因，我就更想要加入这个圈子，然后也委托了我属于我自己的设定。
Yeah, as I said before, the first time I learned about furry was because of a Discord group that I joined. And I also came into contact with many new things in it. I saw all kinds of fursonas, and they were really handsome and beautiful. And because of this, it made me like this fandom even more. And I've even commissioned some art of my own fursona.
Yes, and you've also mentioned to us before the podcast that you also have a fursuit, but it's for another character. So can you tell us more about that character? What was the origin of that one, and how did that come to be?
这只毛毛叫做牙牙，然后它是一只南瓜狐，然后它很调皮，很爱玩，但同时又很怕生。万圣节就是它的生日，毕竟它是南瓜狐嘛。
原来。
所以记得要给它糖吃哦。它的由来是我在大陆的一个 APP 叫做闲鱼上看到的，然后它当时只有一个设定，然后我就已经很喜欢了，所以我就把它买下来，然后之后在我买的那个地方，然后再请他帮我做成毛装，然后就有现在的牙牙了。
The name of that character is Yaya. He's a pumpkin fox. He likes to be playful and naughty, but at the same time, he's afraid of strangers. His birthday is actually on Halloween, so don't forget to give him some candy if you have any. He's actually a fursona that I saw on a Chinese app called Xianyu. I really liked how he looked, so I bought him. And then later I commissioned a fursuit of him, and that became Yaya.
So Shenyu is like some sort of, is it like an art site? What kind of app is Shenyu actually?
他说闲鱼是什么样的 APP，我也不太晓得。
闲鱼这个 APP 有点像台湾的那个虾皮
吗？哦，虾
皮，对对对，它其实是一
个淘宝吗？淘宝那种？
对对，其实它其实是淘宝的另外一个分支吧，它主要是做二手东西为主的。
那为什么是鱼？因为他们是受控吗？
对。
鱼如果有动物就是受控的网站。
它不太算是完全是一个受控的网站啦，只是很多人都会把自己做的一些毛装，然后放进去卖这样子。
Okay. Yeah, so Xianyu is a kind of actually more like a selling site platform, kind of like Shopee or Taobao. I guess in America this is closer to eBay because Xianyu focuses mainly on used items, just like eBay. And so apparently there's like people like fursuit makers who also sell their fursuits on there, and that's how he found Yaya.
Okay. I haven't thought about using eBay to get any fursuit parts or furry art before. Western countries already have that kind of thing. It's the like Fur Affinity, the Dealer's Den, any other kind of art websites as well. So that's interesting.
Yeah, like I think that's a good point. I think maybe the sites that you mentioned might not actually be available in China, and so maybe they'd use another site. Like to them, it's just a site to sell stuff, right? Like it's not saying that you have to use eBay to buy a fursuit. It's just the platform that they would preferably use.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. All right, so do you actually plan on getting a fursuit of your dreamer Egyptian god Fursona actually?
我当然想要把自己的设定做成毛装啦，然后而且我已经在排队当中。我觉得让设定出现在现实世界是一件很棒的事情，然后我也想要带着我自己的设定，然后去各个地方走走玩玩，所以请大家期待一下。
Yeah, I really want to, and actually I already commissioned someone. I'm just in the queue right now, and really can't wait to go fursuiting.
Well, we're congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the photos of the finished product.
Yeah, me too. Let's move on to cons for a moment. Dreamer Wolf, can you tell us what cons you've been to?
兽展的话，我是有去过兽无限、Infinity 跟大陆的一个叫做 Once Upon a Furcon， 然后中文是叫有一个兽剧，就这么简单，简称 OUFC。然后稍早之前，我其实是还想去那个兽界，然后只是刚好澳门有疫情，然后不能出去。然后所以就没办法去了。
Yeah, for FurCons, I've been to Infernity and Once Upon a FurCon. Once Upon a FurCon is actually in mainland China. It's also abbreviated as OUFC. A while ago, I wanted to go to Universe, which is also another Chinese FurCon, by the way. But just at that time, Macau was hit by the pandemic, and I couldn't leave Macau.
There are quite a few furry-related events in mainland China that I just did not have the chance to go to.
I didn't even hear of Universe till now.
Yeah, I haven't heard of like Universe or Once Upon a FurCon either. I had only heard of Super Furry Fusion and Super Winter Fusion. Those are the main ones. I think those are just the ones that they have in Shanghai.
Oh.
And Dreamer, can you tell us what cons would you plan to go to?
其实接下来我应该是不会参加其他的兽展的，毕竟因为要上班的原因嘛，然后没有请到假，也不能随便去兽展，看看下一年有没有什么兽展可以参加吧。当然的话，不用隔离的话，我一定会去兽无限啦。
For this year, I'm not too sure because I have work and I would have to take a leave of absence. I can only see what FurCons I can attend next year. And of course, if I don't have to quarantine, I will definitely go to Infernity. So yay, Infernity.
Yay, Infernity. Yeah. I actually took a small trip over to the Damshui Fulan Hotel yesterday with some friends just to get a feel of what Infernity would look like once I get up there. Because I had never actually been to the hotel before. So I'm excited about that.
So you got to like walk around like the pier area over there?
Yeah, fabulous actually. But let's go back to Macau for just a second and talk about, is Macau fursuit friendly? How is the environment in Macau for fursuiting?
澳门的毛毛其实现在很少，不过还是很友善的啦。之后应该会有更多的人会加入到毛毛这个大家庭里面。然后应该会越来越好玩的。
Yeah, although we don't have many fursuiters right now, I would say that overall the environment is friendly, fursuit friendly, yeah.
All right, well that's always good. And since you've been fursuiting in Macau, can you tell us maybe one of your favorite moments when in fursuit?
最喜欢的时刻应该是之前我租了一个酒店，然后租了一个房间。然后也邀请了几只毛毛一起互动，一起玩这样子。然后那时候是真的很开心，而且那时候是我第一次穿上毛装，然后跟其他人去互动，然后感觉是很新奇，不过也有些小紧张啦。我也有走到那个大堂那边跟路人去互动和拍照。然后不过保安很快就把我们赶走了，然后这个是一次不错的体验。
My favorite moment is when I rented a room in a hotel and invited a few fursuiter friends to interact with me, have fun, and take pictures, that kind of stuff. And I was really happy at that time. And it was the first time I put on my fursuit to interact with people. I was a little bit nervous. I can definitely say that. It was also the first time that I got to go out and interact with people and take photos with people in the public, but there's like security there and they kind of quickly shoot us away. Overall, though, I would say it's a really good experience.
I was wondering about the security, yeah, because we have had other people on this podcast talk about how security was a little bit stingy with them and running around wearing animal costumes and such out in public.
不过他有跟我们说一个情况，就是他怕我们是一个公司队，就是去他们的地方打广告，然后他们就不
因为
太喜欢。
需要申请吗？
应该是不要申请，也应该是没办法申请到。
啊，
对对对，
因为台湾的问题就是这个，如果你没有事先申请，就会被赶走。
那所以我觉得台湾这方面比较友好。
Okay. Now I'll find Junior Wolf said, yeah, there was security who kind of shooed us away, and it wasn't something that we applied for, and it's not something that you could normally apply for in Macau actually. And the security guard, maybe he thought that we were like part of a company and maybe like filming or doing like an ad, and that maybe that's not like allowed. That's not something we can do. But as I said, or as Junior Wolf said, I should be saying, maybe that kind of stuff is like really, really hard to apply for. And what I said to Junior Wolf was that like in Taiwan, you can sometimes apply for those kinds of things. Like if it's like you just want to like have like fursuiters gather in a public space, if you tell the person in charge, like a supervisor or manager, they might let you do it, but you got to let them know first.
Yeah, this is not the first time we have heard about that, where someone thought a fursuit was some sort of company mascot as well. I'm thinking about when we talked to furries from Thailand and Indonesia, where someone's immediate thought was either cosplay or like a company mascot. Well, I'm glad that it was a good experience for you, Dreamer, despite the hassle with the security guard. Now, let's move on to section 3, comparing and contrasting fandoms. So, can you tell us briefly, what does furry mean to you?
对我来说是另外一种生活吧，就是脱下现实的身躯，来到毛茸茸的世界，然后在里面享受最纯粹的快乐，然后让我可以调节现实的压力和各种不愉快的事情。然后不知道你们有没有看过那个动画叫做《我家有个鱼干妹》，然后当回家的时候就变了一个人一样，当我回家变成受控的时候，就是这种感觉。
Yeah, for me, it's like taking on another life, exiting reality and entering the furry world and enjoying like all the happiness in it. And it allows me to sort of like reduce the pressure of reality and all kinds of like unpleasant things that you may encounter in life. I don't know if you guys have seen this like Japanese anime. It's called Himoto Umaru-chan. The translation is something like has like a fish girl or something like that. And so I guess like my situation right now kind of feels like the character in that anime. Like I feel like I'm a different person.
So I had heard of that anime before. Michael, have you ever watched that anime before?
Yeah, I haven't heard about that anime. What's it about? Like briefly.
Okay, so basically, the main premise is that there is this girl who is around high school age, and she has like quite a normal personality and appearance outside of her house, like when she goes to school and all that. But once she goes inside, when she comes back home, she turns into this like gremlin gamer kind of a girl. And the comedy of the show, the whole premise is the differences between those two personalities and her older brother who has to like interact with her whether she's outside or inside of the house.
I guess that's Dreamer Wolf's point, like the whole like transformation into a different person. I guess that's what he was kind of getting at. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we know that Macau isn't really a big place. Macau is actually smaller than Hong Kong, for those who don't know. But if you play GeoGuessr, I guess you do know. So Macau being a small place, Dreamer Wolf, we want to ask you though, like how many Macau furries do you think are there?
我猜现在澳门就本地人的受控来讲，应该大概有100多人吧。就我知道的有50多个，然后我相信应该还有很多是隐藏起来的，然后又或者不知道澳门其实是有受控或者是授权这个东西。然后我们也很期待新人会加入这个授权里面。
Yeah, I think that there are about 100 furries or so here in Macau, and I only know about half that number. I think most of them are kind of hidden, and they may not know that the Macau furry fandom exists. But we're definitely always welcome to new furs.
I think this is something that these Asian communities seem to be going through. It's like furries out there, or potential furries, I should say, that might enjoy being part of the community, but they either don't know about it or they're kind of hidden in some way. I am glad that the community is welcoming for new people to join. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's always important to have a welcoming community, not one that is, I guess, like not welcoming. I guess simply put, not welcoming to new people. And I think it's always a net benefit, though. Like I hate to throw around the word always, but I think it really is like a really good net benefit to join a community that you feel a part of or you feel safe.
Exactly. Now, how old do you think the furry community in Macau is then?
应该其实这几年才比较活跃而已。然后之前都是在 Telegram 上聊天，然后之后才会有活动，然后就是出来吃个饭，或者是出来玩玩之类的。然后在之后才会想要租一个场地，然后让大家互相玩一下，或者是大家交流一下。然后因为现在毛庄也开始多了，就有举办毛剧的活动。那所以其实澳门的授权文化也在刚刚开始，然后未来也希望可以认识到更多的兽迷或者是受控。
I think that the Macau furry fandom has been active for at least the past few years. And, you know, like in the past, we would mainly talk on Telegram, but, you know, now we go out to eat. Later, we went to go rent a venue for everyone to have fun, to play, and to get to know each other. And because more and more people had fursuits, we started having fursuit meets. Therefore, to me, the furry fandom in Macau has just begun, and I hope to know more furries in the future.
Okay. And can you tell us how often do Macau furries actually meet up? Since you mentioned these meetups, how frequent are they? Are they monthly meetups? Are they annual?
基本上比较大的聚会就几个月才会举办一次，因为大部分的人都是学生，然后而且蛮多的人都是出国留学的，然后所以其实我们都想要等到所有的人都回来，然后才办一个大的活动，人比较多，玩起来就比较好。平常的话就是几个人约出来就是吃饭或者是画画之类的，然后又或者是我会约几个毛毛一起出去拍照之类的。
Yeah, basically, you know, big gatherings are held only once a few months, mainly because people are like, there are many people who are students and they're like, some of them are studying abroad actually, you know, so like some people like they just want to wait until those furries come back and then hold an event. You know, it's more fun when there are more people, you know, the more the merrier, as they say. Usually as long as they're free, there will be some kind of dinner or like an artist meetup or something like that. And Dreamer Wolf said that he'll even like on occasion invite people for like a fursuit meet.
That's always good. So you also mentioned that you have been to conventions in mainland China, but how about the mainland Chinese furries as themselves? Do you often meet with them, and how do you think they act or behave? Is it different from the furries in Macau?
大陆的受控其实我很少去跟他们见面或者是交流，主要是因为中国太大了，然后我真的没办法每一个地方都去见面。其实大陆的受控我是很少去跟他们见面或者是交流，因为主要是中国真的太大了，我没办法每一个地方都去，然后而且玩法也不一样，然后导致真的很难跟他们有比较深入的交流。然后另外一个方面是他们几乎都是用一个通讯软体叫做 QQ， 可是我们这边就不太会用，所以就很少去跟他们聊天这样子。
Speaking about mainland Chinese furries, I seldom go meet them or communicate with them, mainly because China is a really big country, and I don't really have time and energy to go to every place. And I also think like the culture is like a little bit different, which makes it difficult to have sort of like in-depth communication with them. Additionally, a lot of them use a messaging software called QQ, and we don't really use that a lot in Macau. So I really get a chance to communicate with mainland furries.
Yeah, I remember using QQ when I was in mainland China. It was an interesting little messaging app. I do also know that some furries here in Taiwan also use QQ whenever they want to chat with mainland furries as well, especially during the pandemic area.
Yeah, I haven't used QQ before, but I have used WeChat before. And yeah, like sometimes if you are not in mainland China, you know, like these things are from mainland China, right? So like there's usually less of a reason to use them. Like QQ, WeChat, like they're mainly used by mainland Chinese people, not really used outside of that country.
Yeah, I would say QQ is more of like a Telegram kind of a messaging app, while WeChat is more like Line or something more. What's a good word for it? Normie?
Yeah, I guess the point I was gonna make is like it's all kind of like messaging anyway.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we just have one more question. Can you tell us more about the prospects of having a convention in Macau? Not just like a meetup, but like an actual event.
我觉得澳门举办大型兽迷聚会是有可能的啊，因为除了本地人以外，然后还有很国家的兽迷也会在澳门工作或者是读书，然后而且澳门作为一个赌城也有一定的知名度，然后相信很多兽迷都会有兴趣看看赌场是怎么样的吧。这样和活动可以把我们聚在一起，大家互相认识和交流，我觉得应该是蛮好的。
I think it is possible for us to hold a large gathering of furs in Macau because apart from the locals, there are many other like furries from other countries who come to Macau to study or work. And also, I think Macau is famous for its casinos. So I think people might be attracted or interested in going to them. You know, a kind of activity like this, you know, like a fur con, like I think it's a good way to bring us together and get to know one another.
Yeah, that's a good argument to make. It reminds me that there is a convention in Reno, Nevada, biggest little fur con. That one is at a grand resort and casino kind of a place as well. So if you don't mind the atmosphere of a casino, then yeah, there's your fur con. All right, well, thank you so much for being a guest here on the podcast. It's been really interesting hearing about Macau. I definitely am more interested in visiting now that I know that there are Macau furries there.
I want to see a Macau fur con.
Oh yeah,
I really want to see that. 我蛮期待有澳门有那个兽展。
我也很期待，希望。
你猜测会叫什么名字？澳门兽展吗？
真的不清楚没有想法。
对，要需要一个 creativity。好。
So before we wrap up this episode, do you mind if you give us your social media handles? How do you want people to find you on the internet, on social media?
大家可以追踪我的推特，然后推特是 @dreamerx2。然后这个是我的推特，然后如果也有澳门的受控看到这个影片的话，然后也可以追踪我们的那个 Telegram， 加入，然后大家一起聊天这样子。
Yeah, you can follow Dreamer Wolf on his Twitter, and we'll share the link there. There's also a Telegram group chat for Macau furries that Dreamer is a part of, and so you can PM him for details if you are living in Macau and if you're a furry.
All right, excellent. Yeah, thank you so much for being on this episode of the Fox and Burger podcast, Dreamer Wolf. We definitely are interested in both visiting Macau especially since you've been here on the show. So, once again, this has been the Fox and Burger podcast with me, Burger.
And I'm Michael the Matcha Fox.
And we will see you on the next episode. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.